What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast, the 29th episode of the College Loop Podcast. And, we're your number one podcast for all things Auburn sports, women's athletics, men's athletics. We run Auburn, Alabama, because is there a better place than College Loop Podcast?
I can't think of one. Can you think of one, Daniel?
Augusta National Golf Club.
That could be a better place physically, mentally. No, I live in the College Loop.
Correct.
And boys, do we have a special episode today? We've got a full rundown. Spring football is back. Football is back. The boys got the pads on. They're making them pop under Coach Hugh Freeze and his first spring. That he's got a very impactful spring. We're going to talk football here in a little bit. We've got a fantastic interview coming your way. Don't skip ahead, or I guess you can skip ahead, but don't skip through this interview with. I don't even have time to list off the accolades. Former Auburn pitcher, AL Rookie of the Year, and Baltimore Orioles legend, Gregg Olson, best known for his dominance on the mound and also known for walking Barry Bonds. And yes, he does talk about that, walking Barry Bonds with the bases loaded, rather. He does talk about that in the interview. Guys, a lot to look forward to. Let's get this show on the road. Dylan, football season is not here, but spring football season's here.
Oh, every day is football season if you love it enough. XFL's back. USL's coming back soon. And, also, y'all two are back after y'all's weekend escapades. One of y'all in Lexington, Kentucky covering that game that y'all were lucky enough not to talk about on the last show. And, sorry, Daniel. I'm sorry you had to actually witness that in person.
It was a good experience.
It hurt just as much watching on TV, probably. So...
Hey, I played it smart. I skied. I didn't even watch. Now, I did come home like the sicko that I am, and I watched the condensed game, and yeah, that happened.
So. Probably no Auburn highlights in that condensed version.
But spring football's here.
But football is back, baby. April 8th, getting ready for that A-Day. But ahead of time, we got to start talking about some position battles. We'll start doing that on the next episode, just previewing certain positions. But it's just good to be back.
It is good to be back. Let's talk a little bit about who's got to prove themselves. There's a lot of positions here.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of people are very, very excited, justifiably so, for the year one of the Hugh Freeze tenure. I personally think there's going to be a drastic difference in terms of just the win-loss category in 2023 from 2022, which it's only up from there, you would hope. But position group wise, guys, we're going to break down position by position groups beginning on Thursday as a group. Let's talk for a second about maybe some specific guys or some specific rooms that have the most to prove this spring. And was it 20 practices? 25?
Yes, I believe so. I don't have the exact number.
I think it's 20 practices. And they've got a lot of ground to cover in that time frame. Dylan, I'll let you go ahead and open the floor. Who are you watching, or what group are you watching the closest this year to see how that shakes out and who improves the most?
All right, so I made a list of 5 players that I think more definitely need to have a very good spring based on just their past performances, who they have behind them, and all of that jazz. But starting off my list, I'm going to go with edge rusher Dylan Brooks. Auburn picked up Elijah McAllister from Vanderbilt, transfer, and also picked up 5-star edge rusher Keldrick Falk, who, we've all said this, he's going to probably be the first true freshman we see get those starting minutes and starting plays, all that jazz. But Dylan Brooks is kind of falling behind in the name category. People are forgetting that he was a high 4-star recruit that we flipped from Tennessee, and he was one of the big recruits from, I think, Harsin flipped him, I think. Is either that or it was like late Gus flipped him. But he's going to have to pick it up just so he doesn't fall behind the Keldrick Falk and Elijah McAllister, of course. And he's a talented guy, fast, strong edge rusher. And, there's only going to be one edge rusher position, or jack, as it's now called, on the Ron Roberts defense.
Sure. Ton to prove there. Edge rusher is going to be a huge question mark this year. And I don't disagree. I'm not surprised, Daniel, that Dylan has a top 5 list. Color me shocked. At least let Dylan, Daniel and I chime in here for a second, then we'll let you run down the rest of your list. Is that okay, Dylan? Yeah. Daniel, go ahead. Who you watching the closest in the spring practice? Yes, Robbie Rashford's a fine answer, by the way. We don't have to avoid the quarterback conversation.
So I'm going to stick close to quarterback, to the quarterback's left or right or behind the quarterback, just depending on the formation. But I'm really interested in the running back room.
You should be.
Ryan Battie, Damari Alston's on newcomer, but Jeremiah Cobb, obviously Jarquez Hunter, just a loaded room
Don't forget
and
Sean
a
Jackson.
lot of talent there. What's up?
Don't forget Sean Jackson.
Right. My
We go
fault.
5
Sean
deep.
Jackson.
We go 5 deep here.
For sure. And then all coached by arguably the best running backs coach in college football, Cadillac Williams.
I don't disagree.
Certainly an argument to be made there, right?
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct.
So and this offensive line is, I mean, the bar was on the floor the past couple of years.
Sure.
But this offensive line is likely going to be a top half offensive line in the SEC. The potential is definitely there.
Sure.
So last year, we saw this running back room that was not nearly as deep, put up really solid numbers with an offensive line that was so far below subpar, it's not even funny, and play calling that just wasn't all that. So when you have all these horses and you have the blocking up front, and if the offensive scheming's as good as it has the potential to be, forget about it. This team will do amazing things. For running backs specifically, but
no, I knew what you meant. I don't disagree. I think most specifically, I'm just going to piggyback off that for a second before I talk about my group. I'm very, very curious to see how Brian Battie plugs in here. I think it's probably in a return capacity, a special teams capacity, but he also kind of like has a little Sean Shivers in him. You know what I mean? In terms of build, in terms of really skill set. I mean, maybe not as good at kind of worming his way as they called worm through the A gap or the B gap. But I think that there's some similarities.
I'm not a big fan of the Sean Shivers comp. I like him better as Ontario McCaleb type running back because he's fast. And Andrew Stefaniak, who came on and covered for y'all too, he kind of came out and said that Brian Battie is going to be that number 2 back behind Jarquez.
Wow.
Which I don't know if I fully believe.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
I think with the skill set, I think he can fit in very well. I kind of saw him as like he's going to be your halfback sweep, halfback toss, and your probably Wildcat if Hugh Freeze pulls out any trick plays like that. But
sure.
I mean, Brian Battie's a great running back and he's an outstanding return man.
Definitely something that Auburn needed help with in terms of a sure set of hands in the return game as well. Definitely a good spot for Brian Battie, and also Jeremiah Cobb. Like, he's too talented to not give some reps this year. So I don't know how you plug him in, how you fit him in on a redshirt freshman kind of package and save him for just 4 games, if you can at all. So I'll be interested to see that. I'm going to be watching this linebacking core pretty hard this spring, I think, alongside 90% of the world. I mean, we know what Demario Tolan brings to the table. This group, just the list goes on and on. But you've really not seen there was a lot left to be desired in this linebacking group last year. Now, how much of that you chalk up to coaching? Whatever. You know what I mean? It kind of is what it is. There's a lot of room for depth. A lot of room for growth, and a lot of room for kind of linebacker by platoon this year. And I'm not entirely sure that by game 1 they'll have a set rotation. Matter of fact, I feel comfortable saying that I don't think they'll have a set rotation yet. It'll be a lot of playing around, fine tuning, seeing who plugs in what package the best, who's going to be that nickel guy, and what that looks like. So I'm going to be very interested. Specifically, I think Demario Tolan, guys, I'm super high on him. I think that he's got I almost sounded like Zach Card for a second there, a super target. But I'm really, really high on him because I think the skill level's there. He just didn't get the reps in Baton Rouge last year, which is fine. You have 4 years of eligibility. But that should be an interesting point. Also, the DBs, guys, like, wow, there's so many DBs on this team. How does everyone plug in? Like, that you got to be curious, right? Yeah. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about Nehemiah Pritchett probably later in the week and in the coming weeks about his decision to return and how Dylan and I'll go ahead and tease it. I think that could really boost his draft stock, Daniel. I really think that the Nehemiah Pritchett could be a second round guy next year, second or third round guy next year. So that'll be interesting to see how that whole conversation shakes out. Let's pivot from talking on the turf. I know we're ready for spring football to be back. What's up? What you got, Dylan? Oh, Dylan's got 4 more. Oh my gosh. Go ahead.
Sorry, you can't have me talk about football and I'm gonna make a list. I'm a list guy.
Big list guy.
But my 3 and 4 guys are talking about secondary. You can nice little pivot over to secondary. My 3 and 4 guys are tied to me. I have Jalen Simpson and Keontae Scott.
Sure.
Because I don't want to say they're falling behind, but when you have Nehemiah Pritchett, DJ James coming back, those are your 1-2 corners. So I forget JD Rhyme, Austin Osbury are both returning.
DJ
And
James could be one of the best corners in the SEC this year.
exactly. You got Kyan Lee, Tyler Scott, all those guys from the recruiting class. Transfer
Dudes.
portal's not over with. I mean, Jalen Simpson and Keontae Scott are two guys that are really good corners, but they don't get near the height that DJ James and Nehemiah Pritchett are getting. And
Sure.
of course, Austin Osbury and JD Rhyme have been showed out in their play time.
Sure.
So if those two aren't careful, they could both fall far in this depth chart. Because I mean,
And that's a position that you have no excuse to not have fresh legs this year.
exactly. Because Auburn goes 7-8 deep right now in the defensive back room, probably before you even have to start burning red shirts. So
sure.
And just go to my number 2, Jeremiah Wright. He's a left guard, presumptive starter at left guard, and he's going to be he's probably the only player from last year's offensive line that is going to be playing at all this season, really.
Sure.
So I think he really needs to show that because, I mean, again, transfer portal's not over with. Avery Jones, who we all presume is going to be the starting center, he has a guy behind him, and Connor Liu, who could start day one. So
Sure.
if Jeremiah Wright's not careful, Avery Jones, who's played some left guard, could kind of take that job from him if Wright's not careful.
Sure.
And I mean, my number one's pretty obvious. Robbie Ashford.
Sure.
He just went through this entire offseason, still going through this offseason with, is Auburn going to pick up a transfer portal quarterback? Is Auburn going to pick up a quarterback? Is Auburn going to get a veteran quarterback? Is Robbie Ashford really all that good? He's went through an offseason of that. And I think this spring is going to be very important for him and his maturity, his growth, his development as a quarterback. And I mean, I think he is the quarterback. I think he is the guy. I don't think a transfer guy is really going to change that right now, especially because I don't think he's going to have a bad spring. I think Robbie Ashford is probably I see his ceiling is closer to him than his floor is.
I don't disagree, Dylan. And the quarterback conversation, Daniel, it's not going anywhere. It's here to stay through the whole spring until that second transfer portal window closes. And now permission to move to college basketball, Dylan?
Yes.
Okay, permission granted. Excellent. Let's talk a little hoops, a little bit of hardwood, and we kind of hinted at it earlier. Auburn is in some trouble right now. They've got a very, very tough final 2 games, a full strength Alabama team that everyone will be playing, read between the lines as you will, and a Tennessee team that got into a rock fight with Auburn in Knoxville. And I mean, that could very well be a rock fight again on Saturday. This is not an easy sled, and I think you have to win one of these games.
Oh, yes. If you have to win one to basically, I put in quotes, clinch a spot in March Madness. And I mean, you're going at Tuscaloosa. I don't know if that's
even feasible.
Winnable. Yeah, it's not winnable. I mean, Auburn lost to Alabama and Neville, which should be Auburn's like bread and butter, easy wins. And I hate that we said bread and butter at the same time with that even being in the rundown. Good Lord. But yeah, I mean, looking ahead, you just gotta hope Auburn gets right before Tennessee, because I'm just gonna preview this game in a second. But I mean, Auburn hung real close with Alabama, but in the last 5 minutes of that Bama game, everything just fell apart. And I mean, Kentucky was not a bright spot at all.
No. And this team's in some deep crap right now. Daniel, I'm interested to get your take here. As we look forward to Auburn taking on Alabama this week, where can Auburn keep it close? And for those of you at home that are already PO'd with me about my tone about kind of chalking this one before you start it, go ahead and plug your ears. Skip ahead to 15 seconds till Daniel starts talking, because I'm sure as hell not going to sunshine pump right now. How does Auburn either win this thing? More importantly, keep this close so it's at least a respectable loss on the RPI and a quad 1 loss.
Right. So, I'm not, me, I'm not afraid of the shameless plug. I will be on site for this one. I haven't seen a road win this year or a neutral site win. So, I mean, why stop now, right? Follow me on Twitter at Daniel J. Locke for updates when I watch the game. Anyway, just as always, it's all about trying to stop Brandon Miller. 41 against South Carolina. I forget what his exact numbers were against Arkansas, but they weren't bad.
24.
Here we go. You guys know me and my glimmers of hopes for seemingly non-winnable games here. Alabama struggled a little bit lately.
Brandon Miller had
There's
24 at Arkansas, by the way, or against
gotcha.
Arkansas.
They lost to Tennessee not that long ago. Real close win, overtime win over South Carolina and Columbia. Auburn blew South Carolina out in Columbia. Do with that what you will. Auburn blew Arkansas out at home. Came down to the wire, Alabama and Arkansas in Tuscaloosa. So this Alabama team, contrary to popular belief, is beatable.
Okay.
They have weaknesses. They do. The big factor is, are Auburn's weaknesses going to hold together a little stronger than Alabama's weaknesses? And
Sure.
like I said, I'll circle back to this. You got to find a way to stop Brandon Miller. You can't afford a 40-point night at all. I think if you can hold Brandon Miller under 25, your odds are good, though.
I don't disagree. I was about to say, it's one of those guys that you can't stop him. You just got to limit him. And he's going to make an NBA team extremely happy because the kid can flat out play basketball, and he can do it at all three levels. He can shoot the ball well. He can get the ball inside. He's hard to guard. Good. He can put the ball on the floor. Be interested to see who steps up in this one. You would think it's got to be either Janai or Jalen Williams in terms of guarding that third level when Brandon Miller gets to the rim and really getting him at the perimeter. But he can also blow past you with either hand, so it really doesn't matter. Interested to see how Auburn can at least try to keep this one close. Bruce and the boys, I personally think that unless you win a couple in the SEC tournament and try to build some momentum, I think that this could be an early exit in March Madness. I think that's entirely plausible. Then again, that 2019 team, I think, would probably still go toe-to-toe with this team right now. So who's to really say?
I'm going to start a little movement. I think we should be done comparing any Auburn team to the 2019 team. Because when I watched the 2019 team, I was like, oh, well, if they get hot, they could just shoot the three out of this game.
Yeah, this Auburn team can't.
This Auburn team can't do that. And sure. And Daniel, I'm sorry to bring up to talk about your point, but Brandon Miller scored 13 against Auburn last time we played.
Yeah, but that game was significantly closer than the scoreboard shows.
It was, and
that game was winnable.
It was winnable. Every game Auburn's played this season, except for maybe Kentucky, has been winnable at some point. Auburn just lacks the scoring at points. They lack the defense. And, I mean, watch Kentucky. They had 4 assists. Sometimes they lack the playmaking to make those winnable games winnable. And, I mean, I sat there and watched all that Kentucky game, and it pained me to even choose to watch the first half because I was ready to chalk it after they went up by 10. Because I've watched Auburn team play. I mean, we were here a couple weeks ago after the Missouri game saying, oh, maybe Auburn's got it right. Auburn's back on pace. And then we watched the Vanderbilt game. Then we watched the Ole Miss game where, yeah, they won, but
it wasn't pretty.
By what, 4 points against the worst team in the SEC who just fired their coach the day after?
R.I.P. Kermit.
So I think Auburn fans, I know it's like, oh, well, the Auburn team got hot at the right time. Yeah, the Auburn team got hot at the right time. This Auburn team is not going to get hot anytime soon if they're going to keep playing like this.
Sure.
And they have probably the hardest stretch of any team in the last 2 games of the season. And I looked at an early prediction for the SEC tournament bracket. They have Auburn playing Mississippi State, and then after the bye, and then immediately playing A&M. And I mean, we all know Auburn's infatuation with losing to Texas A&M and Buzz all the time.
I wrote a column about it.
Exactly. So go read that.
The Buzzsaw.
I think Auburn fans, if you notice, it's like compare the 2019 team. Look at the 2019 team as Cam Newton. Quit comparing recruits to Cam Newton. Like, don't compare this team to the 2019 team. That team had something completely different going on than this team does.
Yeah, I got really bad news for you. I'm going to continue to do that, but you can keep telling me not to. Anyways, let's keep moving forward with some other news on the hardwood. Women's basketball rounded out their season, winning regular season in year 2. Yeah, that's a round of applause for Coach Jay and company. 78-76 W over Vandy. Doesn't matter what the scoreboard is as long as it's a W. Doesn't matter how ugly it got. Who cares? Doesn't matter about how hard Auburn tried to blow that lead at the end of the game. Who cares? I know we're going to grade Johnny Harris's second season here in a second, Dylan. I know we've got that on the books. Honestly, Scott Grayson got her winning season at Auburn. That's pretty damn cool. That's pretty damn cool. And if anybody on that team earned it, it was honesty. First time in 4 years. 4 years. Her first time with real significant importance on this team. You finish over 500. You win multiple games in the SEC. Winning what? 5 games in the SEC?
I do believe so. Yes.
5-11.
Yep.
I know that I'm talking right now like this team's winning a championship, and that's not at all what happened. You're not playing on day one in the SEC tournament. That's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think you're guaranteed to lose.
No.
In the SEC tournament. I think you can win a game in the SEC tournament.
Sure.
Guys, I'll go ahead and kick this off. Johnny Harris is getting an A or an A- for me, but A+ is it's hard for me to give out. A or an A- in year 2. She's the answer.
Yeah.
Right? Daniel, go ahead and break it down.
Sure. I'll follow that up with I'm going to give an A. If you look at all the injuries, the illness, everything that happened and that this team had to overcome, if they just have a normal year on that front, I easily think you add 3 or 4 SEC wins to the win column, especially early. I don't
think 2 is a conservative number
and lose and all that sort of thing.
Sure.
And then at that point, you add 3 or 4 more wins to this win-loss column. You're looking at the tournament. You really are. They were right there, despite everything. They were right there despite everything that happened. You take away everything that did happen, there's a really good chance that you get to go to Women's March Madness. And I really don't think that's a stretch. So to sum it up, I give it an A.
I don't disagree. Dylan?
Yeah, I'm going to round it out, give her an A. I mean, yeah, you got through all the injuries, played a lot of tough games. I mean, you got a tough draw because you got South Carolina twice. So that's a little unfair. You also had to play, you only lost by 15 points to the number 6 team in the country early on in the season, Indiana. I mean, and Indiana's like what? They were 2 a couple days ago.
Let's not forget that game was super close for a long time.
Oh, yeah. And Indiana just played the number 6 team in the country. I mean, they're the number 2 team in the country as of 2 days ago. So great season, great building block. And I mean, you look ahead, they got to play Georgia in the SEC tournament. I mean, they played Georgia, I think, pretty close. I know they lost one game to 11, but I think they played them twice. No, they did not.
They did them once, lost by 11 in Athens.
Yeah, but it was close for most of the game.
Majority of the game. And you put it on a neutral site, who knows?
Exactly. And it's a great season overall. Recruiting class coming in is looking good, and get some of these freshmen a little bit more time to develop. Don't know what happens.
Let's get weird for a second here, and let's talk a little 23-24 women's basketball. Daniel, am I delusional, or is this a tournament team next year?
I think so. This recruiting class, as in the class of 2022, is a top 20 class, correct?
Correct.
So we'll have another year to mature. Players like Caitlin Duhan,
Sydney Shaw,
of course. Hopefully get some more minutes there. Then I believe we have another top 20 coming. Can't talk. Another top 20 class coming in, right? Or
yes.
high, yeah.
Top 25.
Top 25. So when Johnny Harris took over, this was not an SEC roster at all.
It was a train wreck.
Annie Hughes starting, for God's sakes. I mean, no hate to Annie Hughes at all. Just that it's not really what you're looking for in an SEC starter.
Sure.
Now, you instead of having about a quarter of an SEC roster last year, this year they had about half. Next year, they'll have about 3/4. The following year, this train stays on the tracks, which I think it will. You have a full SEC roster. I think they have what it takes to be a tournament team next year.
Sure.
Following year, spring of 2025, Greenville, South Carolina. Buy your tickets now.
I like it. I don't disagree. It's the direction that this is heading. Dylan, you're welcome to chime in. I think that keep the train rolling. The winning season is just so big, man. I mean, like, I can't even begin to and capture it correctly and do it justice, and how damn bad this program needed to win at whatever cost, and their ability to overcome so much adversity this year. Remarkable. They earned this first round bye in the SEC tournament. That was not given to them. They had to work their ass off.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got put into a must-win position about like during the game against Vanderbilt because Florida beat Missouri, and if Auburn didn't win that game against Vanderbilt, they would have been the 12th seed, I think.
Yep.
And it would have been a tougher stretch. And I think a good thing looking into the next season is the fact that Aisha Coulibaly is a junior.
Yeah, she'll be a senior next year and has an extra year of eligibility because of COVID last class, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But you get one more year of your best player. You get those freshman development. You get this next upcoming class in. I mean, Auburn's looking pretty dang good. Or not South Carolina good, but looking pretty dang good.
And Romy Levy's going to actually be healthy next year.
Yeah.
So lots of good stuff going on over on the hardwood. Let's go over to Diamond Sports, guys. Spring is here. It's warm. My allergies are murdering me right now. I walked out. I got my car washed this morning, and then it was like covered in pollen by this afternoon. I was like, that's awesome. Love it. Love the South. Peace, love, and Macon. Let's start softball, and then we'll talk baseball, and that'll be a nice little pivot over to Gregg Olson, who talks a good bit about Auburn ball this year. Auburn just didn't give up a run this weekend at all. And I told
41, by the way,
and dropped 41 runs. And I'm going to go ahead and rename it the Bri Ellis SEC Player of the Week instead of SEC Player of the Week, Bri Ellis. It's going to be named after her because she is her. It's that simple. And I'm a friend of the program, obviously, but I would say this anyways. It really doesn't matter. I mean, 4 home runs, 7 runs, 10 hits, 11 RBIs in 6 games. It's nutty. It's stupid. Like, why is it not harder for you?
She's just playing on easy mode out there, man. It's just not fair. I mean, she also killed her own edition of Love Shack, which for the I think it's like the maskless or the masked singer or something like that they do for everyone now.
The face mask singer.
The face mask singer, and that was fun. Also got a nice little sneak peek at the Ellis family vacation where the Bri, her parents both were singing Love Shack at a bar doing karaoke. And so that whole family, this team, it's just so fun to watch.
And Auburn leads the SEC in batting average, slugging percentage, runs scored, hits, home runs, earned run average, and batters struck out. It's like the Tigers are playing on rookie mode. I know the talent, the talent they're playing against right now is not where it's going to be, but you're beating up on teams at these lower level teams in the fashion you should be beating up on these lower level teams. It may be even exceeding expectations, to be completely frank with you. And guys, this team's hosting a regional. Like,
and you can't really ignore the 15-1 record. I mean,
it speaks for itself. I mean, there does come a point. It's like, okay, Diggy V said it best: just win, just win.
We've seen Notre Dame football teams getting the national championship for playing worse teams than what Auburn softball's playing right now. So.
100%. Auburn baseball. And Gregg's going to talk about this here in a minute about their little draw on Sunday. I hate getaway games. I hate them. I understand that you have to travel. I still hate it. There should always be a winner and a loser in my mind. Flip a coin. I don't know. Do something else. I don't know. Leave it up to chance at that point. I don't know. Auburn got out of this weekend 2-0-1 against USC and probably should have lost on Sunday. And that's okay. Probably plays to Auburn's benefit that you draw.
Yeah, it did.
Ike Irish, like, that's all. That's just, I mean, that's the tweet, right? Ike Irish is just on another level. He's playing on, when you played like Super Mario Baseball on rookie mode and you had the power-ups and Bowser could hit like literal missiles over the fence. Not quite Ike Irish in terms of missiles over the fence, but the dude just hits baseballs. He's hitting 586. He's got, what is it? 17 hits on 29 ABs. 8 runs. I don't know what else you need from me. 4 doubles, 4 walks, stole a bag. 1 for 1 on stolen bases. Only struck out once. The kid is a freshman, a true freshman.
Ike Irish is, he's so good at the sport of baseball. Also can't ignore, I know he won freshman of the week as well. You can't ignore some of these other dogs on the team as well. Justin Kirby has 5 home runs. and
Dogs.
we're only 2 weekends into the season. And Bryson Ware's got 3. Bryson Ware is looking like a top-notch player, and this team is looking fun. But my one gripe with this team, I know it's early, but to start off the season, you win games 1 and 2, and game 3 just a steep decline. I mean, it wasn't a decline at first for USC. You got started off 8-4, and then it got to 8-8, and then it got to 12-8, and then it got to 12-12, and then USC had to leave for a flight, so it tied. It's early. I know it's early, and for me to be complaining about that, but it's just something to keep an eye on later on down the line of the season.
Daniel, in case you couldn't tell, this is Dylan's second full season being a real baseball fan, like a diehard baseball fan. And he's now learning what Sunday games are like in college ball when you're trying to plug in things that don't necessarily work.
Yeah.
So lots of exciting stuff about Auburn baseball. The vibes are great around the program. This team's talented. I'm very excited to see where they go. Honestly, they should be thanking the baseball ranking gods that they got underrated, because it feels like Auburn just thrives in that scenario at all times. No one talks Auburn baseball better than Gregg Olson. So let's take a second here, and we're gonna hit our little stoppy stop and do our little dancey dance and hand it over to Gregg Olson here on the College Loop. Let's hand it over to ourselves, Dylan. Yes, now it is my privilege to bring onto the show and welcome to the College Loop Auburn pitching legend, 89, AL Rookie of the Year, member of the Baltimore Orioles Ring of Honor, ESPN College Baseball analyst. This list keeps going on. One of the best professors I ever had, and a member of the College Baseball Hall of Fame, Gregg Olson. Welcome into the show, Greg.
Thank you, Harrison. I appreciate that. That's a nice compliment.
Hey, I do what I can. That's the nicest you're going to get from me all evening. So as long as you're okay.
All good with that.
And that's why I enjoyed having your class. You can dish and you can take it. You wear it like a champ.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
We wanted to talk a little Auburn ball coming off of a College World Series, and you got a kid on the team again. This is familiar territory with you, so we're definitely going to circle back there. But kind of starting with where Auburn's at and the state of the program and everything that Butch is going on. Auburn feels like they're picking up where they left off from in 22, right back here in 23, with a very nice couple series, a really weird tie. I hate that rule, or the ability to agree on a rule, but whatever. It's better than a home loss, I presume. Where's your head at in terms of the potential of this team this year for Auburn baseball?
Well, I mean, you got to understand that the tie, USC scrambled around, got flights. They need to be back, and their flight was so I played with the head coach, Andy Stankiewicz. And so we talked, a couple times this weekend, and then they had an 8:00 flight. And so, by the time I looked at it, they were getting on the bus to get changed and go jump in the shower at the Coliseum, I assume, at 4:30. So they were going to be pushing it. And I was trying to figure out how they were going to get it done. So that was why the tie. I get it. We got lucky. It was a tie. The runner missing home plate, which is I actually felt bad for the kid, to be honest with you. I mean, there's no play at home plate, and he was looking at the next person to high five and just flat missed it. So, we did get lucky walking out of there with a tie. I think offensively, I think they're in a lot better spot. They don't have DeShera that's going to be clogging the middle and creating, aspects. But I don't think, last year we didn't have a guy batting behind DeShera. We didn't have a 4 and 5 guy, and we were searching for some offensive pieces. So I think we're a lot better offensively.
I wouldn't disagree.
And that's just 1 through 9. I think 1 through 9 is a lot better. Let's see, pitching staff is completely up in the air. Everybody's excited that we beat Indiana 2 out of 3, and just being brutally honest, and then 2-0-1 against USC. Both teams weren't very good last year. USC was graphically bad, and Indiana was 27-32, I believe, because I did their games, and had a staff ERA of 7. Their best returning starter had a 5.4. So that's in the Big Ten. we won't have answers till we get 2 or 3 weeks into the SEC. But
Gotcha.
good start.
You excited about this young group of arms that Auburn's got coming out of the pen?
I think that's gonna be a process, but yeah, I think they've done a nice job of piggybacking some guys, and I don't know what's going on with Gonzalez. He missed his start. Alsop has been good. We need a Sunday guy. And the bullpen's just transitional right now. I mean, they got a nice look on Friday night with Bauman and Canton. Armstrong's kind of bouncing around a little bit, which is good. But I don't. We got pieces that need to be put in place, so you wouldn't expect them to have everything in place right now.
Sure. That closing job is John Armstrong's to lose, right?
I was actually thinking Canton. I think Armstrong's going to be more of a
setup guy.
6, 7, 8. Ranging in there. Probably, I would think. I think he would be able to bounce back better than anybody else. I mean, I was impressed with Canton bouncing back on Friday, Saturday. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, Armstrong's not a traditional closer look, so. I don't know if they'd just be willing to throw it at him. I mean, he definitely has earned a shot at it, I would think. I mean, he's got great stuff. If you're baseball smart enough to overlook 86, 87 mile an hour fastball.
That's all up in the air and depends on matchups. A lot of it that comes into play.
Dylan, yeah, I don't think he matches up great against lefties. I mean, he will. The traditional book is sidearm guys give righties fits and struggle with lefties because they see it better. So,
sure.
Again, the book.
Sure. Dylan, I'm going to let you talk to Greg for a second. I know we have this on our little rundown about a certain young arm that's hanging out in that Auburn bullpen right now.
Oh, so what does it mean to have Ryan, your son, right now being a pitcher at Auburn? How does it feel just knowing that your bloodline runs deep into the Auburn Tigers baseball team?
No, it's pretty cool. My oldest was here for 3 years, and would have liked to seen him get out there a little bit more, but it is what it is. And he walked out of Auburn with a mechanical engineering degree and moved right into Huntsville. So he's all good. The youngest one is he's a competitor and just came out of high school and started mechanically getting a little bit flawed, and then got a bone spur right before August camp opened up. So missed a month and was really mechanically unsound through fall ball. So basically just got beat around, and I think we got him squared up, but had a rough first outing last Sunday. So hopefully he'll get back out there, I guess, Wednesday against Florida A&M. Hopefully get back out there for an inning, get his feet wet, and get moving forward.
What elements of his game, whether it be mentality or mechanically, do you think he picked up from you?
He got my ability to fix things really quickly, and with that goes the ability to pick up bad habits really quickly.
Sure.
So if you're not constantly, and he's 19 years old, so you're not constantly maintaining where you're at. And I didn't figure that out until I was probably 26. So no real harm. I'll watch that when I see the film that he sends me. And he's a competitor. He's mean. He's not afraid of any moment. So I'll take those, and then we're still working on a breaking ball right now, but we'll be competitive in the SEC.
Yeah, if he picks up a disgusting breaking ball, we know where that one came from. That one's genetic. So
we've been working on it. We've been working on it. He's just he's trying to throw it too hard and not doing the adjustments. Oh, here comes Linda's dog.
Another dog appearance on the College Loop, Dylan. We'd love to see it. Yes. Perfect.
There he is.
Honestly, Greg, you just leave the camera there. We're good. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. No, I had the door partially shut, and he just slamming through it. And
It's his house, not yours.
yeah, oh, it is.
As long as you know. Okay, question. You've had 2 kids play for Butch. What is your relationship like with Butch and obviously the recent success he's had in his tenure since he's been at Auburn? What is y'all's relationship like?
I think we're more friends. I don't know. That's kind of a harder question because I was in the conversation when Hudson got the pitching coach job. So obviously didn't get that, and I just think we're more friends. I don't think we don't spend. I'm not on his call list to discuss baseball. We talk when I see him. I mean everything's good. Love him. Love his family. Think he's been great for Auburn baseball. Just I'm not on the call list. He's got enough good people roaming around his office.
Sure.
With Gabe Gross and Schoen Rock and Hudson last year and Nonamaker. So that would be about the extent of it. Trying to be a father that stays away from the program.
That's got to be a weird balance for you, though. At least the first go round had to have been a weird one because this is also your program and your kids' program at the same time, and a place that you all I guess I'll go off on a limb and assume a place you all are very proud to have come through and love. It must have been a weird kind of crossover event in your life.
Well, I mean, it was great when I was the undergrad, and my son had just left, so I came back and I was finishing my degree right before I taught you guys, and was out there every day and helping and really enjoyed my time as a coach. And so I was comfortable for a couple of years because it was all the same guys that I worked with in the bullpens, Mason Barnett and Burkhalter and all those guys that I spent, hours with. Here comes the dog again. And now that they're all gone, I mean, Mason Barnett just came back and threw a couple bullpens before spring training. And I told him, I was like, call Butch and tell him that you need, want to throw a bullpen, you need a catcher and tell him that you want me to come and help. He said, because I'm not going to just show up. And,
sure.
So it's just kind of one of those where I know my space and it's not my team and it's my son's team. So I don't want to walk around, but I'm doing enough games on TV and radio that I'm going to be walking around on the field during batting practice, and it's comfortable for me. I just don't walk around during practice.
I get it. I completely understand. Speaking of broadcasting, Dylan's got a pretty good broadcasting question for you. I think that he wanted to nitpick. This is taking it back to spring of 2022, if you will.
All right. What do you got, Dylan?
Looking back at your career and broadcast career, what has been the greatest moment in your broadcasting career? Like, it could have been a moment, just a game in general, a call.
You know what? It was pretty cool last October. I got the notice that ESPN was going to hire me for the playoff opening playoff series with Toronto and Seattle, and I was on the call with Dan Schulman for sadly 2 games. I was hoping for 3. So that would probably have been my best moment. And then doing what I told you guys to do when we were in class was get feedback, and so I sent it to the head ESPN guy that hired me, and right away he came back and just said, first inning of the first game, Seattle jumps on the Toronto ace, and I was just sitting there going, this dude better be careful, because every swing Cal Raleigh was making for Seattle was right on time, and the guy couldn't figure out his breaking ball at that point. And I was just like, better be really careful right here, because these foul balls are getting closer and closer to being right on time. And then as soon as I finish on time, he hits a bomb to right field to open up a 2 or 3-0 lead in the first. And the ESPN head was just like, that was awesome. He goes, that's what, a lot of people can't do. So really, I thought that was pretty cool. So that would be probably one of my highlights.
I actually remember watching that game when you called that game. Yep. and texting Dylan and saying, Greg just called a shot on live air.
It was pretty cool. It really was.
It's
So,
one of those when you walk out with a little bit of extra moxie when you walk out of the box, you feel a little bit like you need to go play the lottery.
yeah, but you're with Dan Schulman, who's called, 1,000. You're going, yeah, I'm good. It just, I'm not going to talk about it anymore because he's seen that and done that and an
Sure.
unbelievable career. So it was fun to be on the call with him on his last ESPN year.
Pretty neat. Daniel, I know you want to bring it back to Auburn, so I'm going to let you. I'm going to stop putting the silence on you. Greg knows I'm a talker, so I'll make sure I'm not too dominant here.
Where's Daniel?
Right here.
Daniel's down to the bottom left, or as I'm looking at it.
So just kind of going back to the beginning, what made you choose Auburn?
Well, it came down to Mississippi State, Arizona, and Auburn. Arizona was going through a little bit of an issue. Jerry Kindle's wife was going through ALS, and her health was struggling, and he was, kind of in and out with the team. And the atmosphere, the dynamic in the clubhouse felt off. And I just didn't feel like it was a great situation. Well, I was wrong. They won the national championship freshman year, so missed on that one. Didn't miss, but and then Mississippi State was losing Bobby Thigpen, Palmero, Clark, Brantley, and my recruiting trip to Auburn was that April at some point, I think, and we were playing Mississippi State here. Well, I didn't really do my due diligence and find out that Mississippi State swept Auburn over there, but I came here on my recruiting trip, and it's Bo Jackson out in center field, and unbelievable offensive squad. Well, they swept Mississippi State here, and I was just looking across the dugout going, well, all those guys are gone. All our guys are back, and I can pitch. I could probably pitch tomorrow if I find a uniform. So that really made my decision. Obviously, the campus and the beautiful women and a lot of aspects, but Hal Baird was a huge piece of it as well.
That's awesome, Greg. You've never lacked in confidence. Where's that come from, man? I mean, I'm telling you, you could stand up in front of 1 million people and tell them something completely wrong, and I would believe you. I would follow you.
I appreciate that. Well, I'm telling the truth on that one, but not at that point. I mean, you're in high school and you're dominating high school, and you don't know the jump to SEC. Well, my freshman year, if you probably would have talked to me, I got completely thumped. So there was a whole lot of confidence roaming around me in on my freshman year.
I love it. I'm going to jump real quick. I know you guys are going to bring it back. Daniel wants to bring it back in a second about bringing it back to Auburn. But I wanted to talk to you for a second about your book, Greg.
Okay.
About We Got to Play Baseball. I've got it right here. If you're watching the YouTube version, you can pick it up on Amazon. That was a no-brainer pickup that I read. And full disclosure, I've not finished the whole book because I bought it in the middle of a move. But have jumped around. It's one of those. I feel like I can jump around story to story. It still all makes sense.
Yeah.
You're part of a baseball fraternity for the rest of your life. You know this, and at all levels, both collegiate and at a professional level. There's got to be something about being able to walk into, I guess, any not room's not the right word, but any arena of other great athletes and know that you kind of belong there. There's got to be a moment where you're like, this is pretty damn cool. And I'm just you got to tell us other normal people how that feels.
Well, I mean, it's cool that I can relate. I wouldn't say that I'm going to walk up to Michael Jordan and sit there and have a conversation about what he went through, or but I mean, I got to play with some of the best in the world, and Cal Ripken was a close friend of mine when we played. Greg Maddox, John Smoltz, were friends, and Tom Glavine, when he was here watching his son, we would catch up, and that part of it's really cool. It's I don't know. You kind of sit back and I don't know if I look back on my career more going, man, it'd been a lot of fun if I didn't get hurt and what would have happened. And as opposed to going, looking around the room going, yeah, I fit in here, but yeah, it's fun. There's some aspects that are really cool. And there are some aspects that are comical, and you can kind of fit in and not fit in at the same time.
Sure. And you can also dominate people on Twitter. You do it routinely. You're one of my favorite follows. Daniel, I know that you wanted to, if you wanted to bring it back to, you were talking about the last question we had on our list. It's in no particular order. So it's just kind of as Dylan and I had word vomit, we projected on a screen. This is kind of where we're at. So I'm going to let Daniel go ahead and open it back up with a little more Auburn talk.
Sure. So just can you walk me through what it was like to get your number retired by Auburn? Just kind of like how that felt, what it means to you, and just that sort of thing.
Well, I'll correct you for a split second. The number's not retired. Mike Bellows wearing it now. They had what they call it, the Wall of Fame.
Yeah.
So that was really cool because you knew Frank Thomas was probably going to be in the Hall of Fame or making a real close run at it towards the end of his career. I think it was in 2008. Bo Jackson, and Hudson. I don't know. He hadn't finished his career yet, so he was still in the middle of it. But you just kind of look around and you're like, wow, I mean, it's one of those moments where I don't think I want a statue. Fairly sure I don't want a statue. But the wall thing's really cool. When USC came out, a couple of people that I had known from out there had sons on the team, and they were like, dude, you're on the wall. And it was like, yeah. So
yeah,
it was
definitely
a really cool weekend. It was nice to be honored by Auburn, and the way that Auburn remembers me and treats me is really, something special.
There's something to that cliche about the Auburn family. I feel like there's got to be some validity there.
Well, I mean, do you guys disagree? Do you guys are all graduates of Auburn. I mean, do you disagree? You've gone through your schooling and the people that you stayed in touch with or you still in touch with, and it's a bizarre dynamic that I don't expect a whole lot of schools have.
There's no way they could, but yeah, Dylan and I talk about it all the time, and Daniel is getting to live it right now. He's a sophomore, actually. We picked up a sophomore off the side of the street, and we decided to do some charity work. But no, if you keep teaching sports reporting, you'll wind up teaching him here shortly. Yeah. But yeah, no, Dylan and Daniel and I talk about this all the time about the Auburn family and the validity behind that. It is like you said, it is weird and kind of culty in some ways, but also I wouldn't trade it for the world. So
yeah, no.
Couldn't agree more. Got a pro ball question for you, and you told us a little bit about your one career hit when you were our professor, right? The one blast was at 98.
Yep.
Yeah. So you were 1 for 4 in your career. Yep. By my math, that means that if you would have gotten the average amount of MLB ABs, which is about 129 a year, you should have been a 32 to 33 homer kind of guy. Would that have been you?
Yeah, no, I was thinking, 10-year career, probably, 400 some home runs, and yeah, that's the way the math equates. So,
yeah.
And then I would have struck out by that math 1,200 times.
That would have been one of the best offensive careers I've ever seen.
Well, I mean, it fits into the game right now.
Yeah,
look at Joey Gallo striking out 200 times and having 30 home runs. So it's really, not that far off. And wow. I did get a walk.
Yes, you did draw a walk, but I was looking at your career stats earlier. I was like, I can't remember what year he said that you're with the Diamondbacks, right?
Yeah.
When you hit that one, that's so funny. You have 4, I guess 5 ABs. One of them's a walk and one's a blast. That's just such a great story. That almost as good as the Barry Bonds story.
It's almost as good as the Barry Bonds. I mean, it's comical, and it was kind of one of those where both of those stories just kind of, I don't know if you can say capped off a career, but it was like, all right, you know what? This has been a fun ride, and I just throw a home run onto it, and then I got the Barry Bonds walk. So, and those were all, I think, about a month apart. So it was the walk was next year, but it was a comical little stretch for a month.
That's a hell of a month. That's so funny, actually.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was pretty good.
Dylan's got a little bit of a question about your playing career, kind of going in that same direction.
Yeah, so it's common knowledge to everyone that follows any kind of baseball page that you did walk Barry Bonds. But if they stop and watch
the bases, it's important
with the bases loaded. Yes. But if you incorporate watching the entire video of it, it was a very smart play because I mean you don't want Barry Bonds to hit that home run, and the Diamondbacks won the game by a run by a fly out. So what do you tell people about that whenever it gets brought up to you, or it's like, hey, aren't you the guy that walked Barry Bonds with the bases loaded? What do you say to those kind of people?
Most of the time, it's kind of one of those where somebody will bring it up, and then everybody else in the crowd or the room or the conversation will go, "That was you." Yes, that was me. You know what? The whole story is that I came in to face him in the eighth, and he was not playing that day, so he was pinch hitting in like the 7th spot in the lineup, and I was closing for the Diamondbacks. So he comes in, and we're winning 7-5, and yeah, 7-5. And he comes in as the there's 2 outs, and he's the tying run, and he's Barry Bonds. That was the beginning of his run of epic numbers, and so I come in to face him, and I mean honestly, I could paint a fastball down and away on a 3-2 pitch that was the best fastball. This was perfect. It was flawless. Corner, knees, perfect. And the umpire called it ball 4. So I get the next guy out, going to the 9th. One of my guys hits a home run, makes it 8-5. And I get the leadoff out too, which was funny. And then I completely make a mess out of the whole game. It starts to rain. I start to slip. I'm walking guys, give up a double to Jeff Kent, which was nothing new. And by the time I get to my second out, Bonds comes up, and I'm just like, I'm done. I am physically exhausted. I'm done. I'm wet. It's been raining. I have nothing left. And I'm standing on the mound. I'm looking at him going, all right, I had my best stuff last inning. I should have struck you out. And you've seen my best stuff, and now everything's astronomically worse. How am I going to get you out now? And I was standing on the mound kind of just going, all right, running through sequences and where to start and what to do. And Showalter just steps up to the dugout and puts 4 fingers. And by that point, I mean, we had used our mound visit, and I was physically exhausted. And I was just like, okay, whatever. And so throw the 4 pitches. He walks, and he stands there in the box and peels off all his stuff, and beyond pisses me off. And then the next guy comes up, and it's Brent Maine. I don't get Brent Maine out at either. I mean, he was like 4 for 10 lifetime. It wasn't like a great matchup. And he's a lefty and, kind of a high fastball, flat, plain swing. And I get ahead quickly, and I'm like, okay, let's get the punch out and make sure this thing's secured. And I miss on a, 1-2 curveball, then a 2-2 changeup, then it's 3-2. And I'm like, all right, here you go. Fastball, middle of the plate, foul ball. He fouled off 5 pitches. And every one of them, all 12,000 people in Candlestick are going nuts. And I'm just exhausted going, just hit it. Just hit it.
Just hit the ball.
Just hit it somewhere. I don't care. Or I'm not walking you. I am middle of the plate and just throwing just middle of the plate. It was just hit it. And then gets one to right field. My rookie right fielder loses in the lights for a split second and has to catch it down on a knee. And his expression walking into the, hand me the baseball was just like he had a heart attack. He was about to die going, if I drop that ball. And so the rest of the story goes, I go into Showalter's office after the game and just said, hey, Buck, I just heard we did something that hasn't been done in 47 years in the big leagues. We probably should have just talked about it. And he goes, what are you talking about? I said, I could have hit him. I said, I wanted to hit him after he walked the first time and he peeled off all his stuff and walked 90 feet to first base. I said, I could have just smoked him in the ribs. And Showalter looks at me and goes, I didn't do that. And I was like, no, I did, but it was a couple pitches too late and we were already. I said, that would have been perfect. Not one person in the world would have thought a thing about it. Just like, oh, trying to go in there. Well, that's unfortunate. Yeah, so that's kind of the rest of the story.
That's That is so good. Oh my God. Yeah, that's so on brand. I kind of knew where that story was going. You hadn't told the full version when we were in class. You
Yeah.
didn't tell us the after part. But as soon as you said you sat down, I was like, oh, I knew exactly where this is going. He's gonna say you should have hit him.
Yeah, then Buck just looks at me and goes, didn't think of that. I was like, yeah, couldn't do anything after you put 4 fingers up. So
Well, there's only so much you can do. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. Dylan and I were going back and forth about whether or not it's something we wanted to talk about with you earlier.
Oh no, it's funny because I'll send Buck a happy anniversary text on May 27th.
Good.
Because it's and I think I would have been a lot more stressed out when I was plenty stressed out as it was, but I would have been a lot more stressed out if I realized 25 years later it was going to be social media fodder for 3 or 4 days every May 20th.
Yeah, it's like Bobby Bonilla. It's one of those baseball lives on forever.
Yeah,
and it will transcend generations.
If I would have known that it was going to live on forever, I probably would have been a little bit more stressed out.
Or you might have just hit him.
Or I might have just hit him. That would
clearly that already went through your head one time. So that's one of my favorite things that you do on Twitter is whenever someone does some, I guess for lack of a better term, asinine antic in baseball, you inform everyone that guy would have gotten a heater to the ear hole.
Yeah.
Your ability to be candid is unparalleled. I'm not trying to give you an ego either. I'm the first one to dog on you when I get the chance.
Well, it's so April 1st comes around and I'll do my unwritten rules of baseball, and at some point about 5 of them have the result is you get, and then I'll have a whole bunch of people going, see, that's just not right. That's barbaric of your game. I was like, that was the game for the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. It started to change in, the early 90s after Nolan Ryan left. But, I mean, I got stories of Nolan Ryan hitting guys just because they hit a home run in the first inning.
That's awesome.
No, one of the last games I remember him pitching against us, I think it was 93. We were in Texas for one of the last home, day games in April, and leadoff guy gets on, second guy gets on, third guy, Mike Devereaux, hits a bomb. We're up 3-0, nobody out. And so I'm sitting in the dugout because the bullpen in old Texas was like a little submarine, and it was 100 degrees already, so I wasn't going to sit down there. And fourth guy comes up and he hits him right in the middle of the back, first pitch, not even trying to disguise it, just whack. And our guy goes down on the knees, lost every bit of air in his lungs. It was, and you're just kind of sitting there going, he did that on purpose. We lost the game 4-3. We didn't get another hit.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible, actually.
Yeah. So I mean, it really did work.
It was effective.
It was really, I mean, barbaric by our standards today, but it was really effective.
At its core, baseball is just kind of like grown men trying to smack a spherical object with a club. So I mean, and do with that information as you will. Well, we're about out of time, Greg. We really appreciate you coming on. I got one last question for you. This one's a layup. This one's easy. Who's a better student, me or Dylan?
I thought you were. Dylan with sunglasses and looked like he's not paying attention.
Ain't no way.
I was so ready for Greg to be like, I'm not answering this, and then I should have known better. I really should have known better.
I mean, neither one of you guys were great students, so I mean, but
we ran that class. What are you talking about?
Oh, you guys did. I mean, it was that's gonna be hard to replace that class. That was a lot of fun. I was
late to every Thursday class because we were on radio.
Constantly entertained.
We were equally as entertained, if not more so.
Thank you.
And we really appreciate you coming on, Greg. Gregg Olson, now friend of the program officially.
Absolutely.
And super glad to talk ball with you, and hopefully get to talk a little more Auburn baseball coming down the road this year. We're really looking forward to it. And Daniel, make sure you take if Greg's teaching sports announcing, take it with Greg. It's a trip.
We'll do.
Greg, we appreciate you. We're going to send it back to ourselves before we get out of here, Dylan.
Right.
So I'll let you go and cut that one off.
Great seeing you, boys.
Big thank you once again to Gregg Olson for coming on the show. What a fun interview. Great pro, better ball player. and just a damn good guy and a ton of fun to talk to. Friend of the program now, guys. MLB alumnus is now a friend of the program.
The College Loop resume is looking pretty daggum solid, if you ask me.
It gets better every show, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do the thing where we tell people where to find us if they're clinically insane enough to go check out more of our work. And you know what? We'll start with Daniel again, per usual. Daniel, go ahead, bud.
Absolutely. At Daniel J. Locke on Twitter. You can find my written work at The Observer or any Auburn student media outlet. Tomorrow off first alert coverage of the beatdown that very well might happen in Tuscaloosa. So, yeah, follow along.
Best of luck with that. Safe travels to T-Town. Daniel, be careful getting there. We need you back in one piece because we need you on the loop. It's all personal benefit, nothing to do with your personal safety. I'm kidding. My name is Harrison Tarr. You can check out my Twitter at by Harrison Tarr, like you're reading a byline on a newspaper. If you want to see my written work, that's at the Auburn Daily. I got your things, all things women's basketball, softball, barbecue takes. That's me. I got you. Betting takes. Don't take them from me. Take them from Lindsey Crosby. You can find the rest of my, I guess, vocal work. That's a word. I'll go with this. The rest of my podcasting work at the Auburn Daily Show. That's every Wednesday and Friday. Wednesday with Dylan Larck. Friday with friend of the program, Lindsey Crosby. He's going to come back and talk baseball, I think, next week. And another soon-to-be friend of the program, Zach Blackerby of the Auburn Daily Show, should be on later this week, if not next week. Thank you guys so much. Dylan, it's you. I know that you're going to tell everybody, hey, don't forget, we are everywhere you have your podcasts.
Yes, we are. I'm Dylan Larck at your boy the Tank on Twitter, and you can find the College Loop wherever. That's Facebook, Instagram, not MySpace though, but Twitter, TikTok, Amazon Music, Spotify, YouTube, and of course, Apple Podcasts. Also find me on the Auburn Daily Show every Monday and Wednesday. And with that, it's been the College Loop Podcast.